Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. I was just listening to this rabbi talk, and if I remember correctly, he said, and I quote, it used to be when you were losing a war, you would have to surrender first, not get the world to say, oh, what you're doing is atrocious, and please stop killing our kids. So I guess what he's saying is, he said, if their children want to stop being killed, then they should surrender. And I thought to myself, that's interesting. People still listen to these men talk and give religious advice. It's crazy interesting because by that same ideology, then the Jews or the Jewish people should have just surrendered during. But if I say that, that's anti-Semitic. You know, the mental hula hoops and the psychological mind games these people play, these apologetics. I actually gave Myth Vision a shout out a while back, and then lo and behold, on 2 streams and a couple other streams, he's having Jewish, I guess they're called rabbis, explain why Christianity and Jesus are false. So I thought that was just hilarious, like when you use Jewish people to prove a sect of Judaism wrong. That's hilarious. So yeah, free will, right? So you guys can follow and do whatever you want, I suppose. I actually wanted to talk about, the idea of, I've said before, the word is who I am. Now, a lot of times, the reason you don't hear me using the word God is because to edify properly, according to you all's text and history, the word God came from the Anglo-Saxon pagan god, Gudan, associated with Odin and Thor and all that, from Europe, High Europe, or Germans and Anglo-Saxons, Frisians, and Jutes. And so once the British got involved and they invaded Britain and it all got mixed together, then you have the emergence, as I've told you before, of Christianity. You know, the Roman Catholic Church is the precursor to a lot of this stuff. And so a lot of times I say I am, because I'll even see people. The reason I like to do my own research is because you'll see all over the internet people saying the God Yahweh, he was this, he was that, all the stuff about the God Yahweh. But you see, when people don't really understand concepts and they parrot a lot of the things that they've heard before and don't actually critically think, what they're saying is, I am who I am. And then they're saying like a bunch of this bad stuff. As I've tried to tell people before, I am who I am is a phrase. Yahweh is a phrase. If you really research the Hebrew religion, or whatever you people call it in whatever tongue, they didn't even have a name for a god. They would be considered what you people today are atheists, I suppose, because the framework and ideology is there was no image, there was no name, there was none of that. It was I am. And that was strictly one of the first 3 that was the first 3 commandments, actually. No image, no name, no none of that. My name is I am, signifying I exist. And that is the name to be remembered through generations. But of course, just like when I do research and everything else is opposite, so is this religion that people are learning. So the concept of I am. I believe, to my best ability and or knowledge for what I can comprehend and tell, that somebody from a long time ago resurrected what was buried, because according to writing, after Babylonian exile, the name or phrase Yahweh was stricken away from. And then it was then resurrected again by somebody or some people. In written Jewish texts, it says that a man named Yochanan ben Zakkai is the one that did it. In the Christian and Roman texts, it says a man named John the Baptist did it. According to what I see from written history, there was a man named Yehohanan, which is Yohanan basically. He was crucified, the only man ever found crucified in a Jewish burial, and he was prominently he was loved. And there was other people around him, like what I would consider followers or people that were with him, that were murdered and not crucified, but they were murdered also. And the strange thing is, what I find ironic is that I believe this man's child was killed because he was buried next to a child. And the child was named son of Yohanan. or you guys can do your own research if you want to and look this stuff up. So basically, so what I'm saying is somebody was resurrecting Yahweh, or I am who I am. And from there, it spread like wildfire. Now, the reason why the Jewish Yohanan ben Zakkai ties into this is because what he did was apparently he escaped, according to texts, he escaped out of Jerusalem or wherever they were at during the war or revolt before Vespasian was about to destroy the temple. And then he prophesied that Vespasian was going to become the king. And then it happened like almost immediately. So then you have this Yochanan figure, which I still believe he was executed. I believe it was like a deal. He said to bring me Yahweh's sages. So he saved the priests and stuff like that. While the other people, I don't know exactly what happened because there are missing parameters and a lot of history still remains unknown. A lot of it possibly is known, especially when dealing with the Roman Catholic Church. I'm hearing a lot of stories and seeing texts of things that are coming out of, I guess they have a Vatican vault and all this other stuff. And if they have a straight lineage or a heritage or a place from things that have been happening since back then, and they can translate and understand these texts, a lot of them would know. So, I've been reading a lot of John, and from what I can perceive, this man was speaking. If you read the first 3 Johns, this man was speaking about something, and he was speaking about a spirit, so to speak, or the spirit of God. And what I believe people have done was put names of other gods there, just like the word or the creation of the word God. Monotheism was not a thing in the ancient days, according to written text. Even in the Hebrew, even in the Bible, it says that. It says they were fighting the other gods over and over and over. So, back to the ideology of I am. I believe somebody was resurrecting this. Possibly they were committing blasphemy according to the times, because they would have been assumed to be saying that they are the one or whatever, the creator. When I was talking to somebody recently, and they said the ideology of the word God even means the first. And so, in a framework or a time frame, from humanity being first instituted till now, we have a conscience, we have an understanding, we know that we exist, we can perceive the world around us. And so that name I am which is why I say is greater than all things, because it is. I dare you to say what you are without saying I am or I. It's a paradox. It's brilliance from people in the ancient days. So imagine we say all the time, these philosophers, these scientists. But when I read that book and look at even if it was written in the 1500s or 300 AD, in a time where people were just murderous, making love pagan, crazy people that believed in all type of pagan heathenism, these words were brilliant. They're gold. I'm using these words to survive sometimes in my heart. Certain scriptures and lines I've said before that come back to me to help me live. You know what I mean? So I honestly believe that a lot of it, I have a good friend his name is John Core Books, but I call him Yochanan Scrolls, or I call him Yochanan Core Scrolls, because Juan and John conjugate back to Yohanan and Yehanan. And so he tells me all the time, and it's the truth, that all these institutions, the atheists, the Christians, the Muslims, the Catholics, it's all just us versus them. They know what they're doing, and they're getting richer and richer and richer. Even the little podcasts that people are creating with the little thank you button there, and then they do their live streams, $4.99 super chat, $9.99, $50, $100. I see people doing $250 and $500 sometimes because people are giving valuable information. You're free to do whatever you want, but I was looking at this one YouTuber, and sometimes they do gardening, sometimes they do this and that, and they do religious videos about Christianity. Their channel got demonetized, and they said they're no longer making any more videos. So you had to get paid to do it. You were doing it for money, for gain. And so, I am not okay with manipulating people. When I teach people, when I talk to people, I am sincerely trying to connect with people and trying to free them from a lot of these cages and broken concepts that we have learned over the years. Even atheists, they get too better. They become so wise that they sound foolish. I watched an atheist prove that he doesn't exist in theory and nature, trying to use science and space-time and all these words. What are you doing? You can't prove that God isn't real because even the literal word exists. So as much as you get up on podium and then you say, God isn't real. So then I go look in the dictionary and see it's a word. It is real. You see what I'm saying? I'm not talking about the imagination of concepts that people create. I'm talking about the fallacy of a lot of the foolishness that we do and waste our time on. Arguing over things that don't matter. Killing each other over things that don't matter. Why don't the Palestinians surrender so their children stop getting killed? What type of, and these are the holy people? Wake up. And so I am, and so are all of you. From there, you branch off, and what comes to you is what you are made of. The entire idea of Armageddon or being cleansed or anything comes from changing and becoming a new person. Here, kitty. Come here. And so, stop falling into this. Even to me, the idea of the pit is just the imagination, a rabbit hole of tomfoolery that can be unleashed into the world with enough media attention and enough power. And that's what these people are doing. And so, am I here to attack atheists? No, I'm basically telling you that no matter what you are, if you're falling into the rabbit hole, you're no different than the fool you're arguing with, if that makes sense. So always remember, I am just like you. You know what I mean? And from there, you are who you are. You want to understand who a holy people is? Listen, when I talk about John the Baptist and when I talk about these different Johns, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to conceptualize what may have actually happened. And so what I'm telling you is basically, it's the lifestyle. People keep going, Jesus the God, the Lord, and all this other stuff. You guys are, it even says it does not matter the name. What you're failing to realize and understand is the lifestyle, the character. He didn't want to pick up a rock and sling it at a woman because of adultery and different stuff like that. There's a different way. You know what I'm saying? And we have evolved over the years because of the righteous people who changed the world. Because of the people who make those sacrifices. And so, you know what I'm saying? You are all a part of a kingdom. And depending who I am, depending who you are, is what kingdom you belong to. It's not some secret club that you have to go get all this ultimate wisdom from. You know the difference between right and wrong. You have perception. You have the same eyes, ears, and everything else. While you may have been tainted by other corrupted people, you can always change at any time. The idea of even a baptism or a mitzvah or whatever they call it to wash the body is just significant of doing a physical thing of washing the soul. A lot of people don't understand their inner voice, and then when they get confused, the first thing they do is they run to a hospital or a doctor, and then them people diagnose things that they know nothing about. And even the type of information they do have, they're not using it for your benefit. It's a money capitalistic system. And so ultimately, you're still going to be a dollar sign to somebody. Nothing is done for the benefit of the health of people for no reason. If you don't believe me, go check out some of these charities and figure out why billionaires aren't paying taxes. All this old food that they're giving out of the stores that's expired, but then they get all these huge tax write-off and benefits from it. Trust me, nothing's free. And so learn from who I am, slowly and righteously. Become a better person. And I'm going to link some words on the screen throughout this video, because I want people to try to conceptualize when I say the word is God and the word is with God, or rather when I say the word is who I am and the word is with me and the word became flesh. And so now I am governed by the spirit of righteousness in terms of my eyes being open, seeing what's happening on the inside, and then destroying or removing those desires to do harmful things. People say, then how do I be good? Or what is good? And what is this and that? You guys, when you get the thought to do something negative, or when you get a bad thought, that's what Armageddon is. The spiritual warfare within. Am I telling you to go full on off in the left field? No. That's why you have the character of that person whose red words are in that book. And that's the idea of the spirit, so to speak. Being a different person, being reborn of those words, to become children of mine. I simply speak in first person for somebody on behalf of somebody else, so that the word can manifest and become flesh, sort of speak. So have a good day, and I hope that was helpful and edification. You know what I mean? Even the circumcision, like my friend Yochanan Cord Scroll says oftentimes, based on the script, the most important scripture, loving who I am with all your heart and soul, and loving your neighbor as yourself. So, you know what I mean? Circumcision just means circumcising the heart, the rising desires to do harm, so that way you are a loving, kind person that does not cause harm. You don't have to be a homophobe. You don't have to be a misogynist. You don't have to be a psychopath. Or they tell you if you get those thoughts or anything like that. And yet these elites out here are living it out, destroying people, doing everything under the sun. But you're the bad guy. Get help and understand spiritually these things. Because if you go out there and treat religion like fast food and go give out a couple of bucks and get a quick meal, you might be eating, metaphorically speaking, spiritual poison and not even realize it.